Okay, and wait, no, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Still waiting for it. Still
Really?
waiting for it, Mike. Where's
Oh,
Jeremy, by the way? Jeremy's not coming?
he's
Oh,
at work.
Jeremy's at work. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, hello, everybody. We are live. We are the Leg Kick Podcast, coming at you before a heavyweight fight that is not getting enough talk. Not getting enough talk, and I am excited for this one. Hold on. Hey, guys, can you keep it just a little quieter, please? A little quieter. Let's start that again.
All right.
Hello, everybody. We're the Leg Kick Podcast, coming at you before a very intriguing heavyweight main event. Here to preview the fights. It's Thursday, June 24th. We are at 50% capacity, but that doesn't matter because it's COVID and we're all at 50% capacity, really. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Acifo, current MMA fighter, former correspondent for Classical 88.2 FM, and their sports correspondent. Mike, say something to good people.
It's 89.3, and that's also another Paul Thomas station. I'm not gonna lie. Good guy, Paul Thomas. But yes.
Paul, I don't know who you are, but your name works forwards and backwards. You could be Thomas Paul if you really so choose. Anyways, with that out of the way, we've got some good fights to preview. We've got a little bit of news to discuss, possibly even a bad take segment of the week. But
Wow.
before that, before we get into all that juicy suppleness, like the podcast, subscribe if you haven't already, share it around. If you know a friend who's into MMA, tell them about it. If you know a friend who's not into MMA, tell them about it. If you know a friend that absolutely loathes MMA with their entire being and feels like it's, barbaric nonsense, share them the podcast anyway. We don't care. We'll take your views, even if it's in bad faith. But if you hit that thumbs down button, so help me God, we will come to your house and we will scalp you.
Yeah, that's what happened with the Colby Covington video that one time.
Yeah. Notice how after that video we didn't get very many downvotes. Those people were all scalped. Hard to hit the downvote button without a hairline.
Jake Paul doesn't hit a downvote button ever.
What's that?
Jake Paul doesn't hit a downvote button ever because of his bad hairline. So.
Well, Jake Paul has a bad hairline, eh?
Oh yeah. If you ever see, that's why he has the bangs in front of his head. If you ever get him to do one of these, spaghettios.
Oh, he's got some premature baldness going on, eh?
Yeah. That's the alleged facts. I can neither confirm nor deny the baldness of one Jake Paul.
Well, Jake, here at the Leg Kick Podcast, we have full capacity hair, even though we're at half capacity.
We don't judge though.
We don't judge. We don't judge. If you need us to donate some of our hair to your receding forehead, ever increasing forehead, Jake, we got you. You don't have to grow out that shaggy mop. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into some news, shall we?
Transition.
Let's get into the news and views of the week. Wow, that was a good transition. I must say, I am not usually one for transitions, but that was truly the cream of the crop. Anyways, let's get into some news, shall we? A couple fight announcements. Not too much moving and shaking this week, but let's see. What do we have here? Islam Makhachev, Thiago Moises finalized for July 17th. Okay.
Main event.
It's a main event?
Yeah, apparently. That's why I heard. I don't know.
What an odd fight.
Yeah. Okay, it's not Islam Makhachev's fault, and it's not Thiago Moises' fault. But I do think Islam Makhachev deserves a bigger step up in competition than Thiago Moises, who is a good fighter, but I think that speaks to the level of talent that we think Islam Makhachev is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think riding off, I'm not saying that doesn't have a unique and diverse skill set of his own, right? He's very different from how he approaches the game in Khabib. Similar strategy, but different tactics and different choice of weapons. Um, but riding off the coattails of Khabib, more in the sense of clearly the public's got an appetite for Dagestanis who can wrestle their ass off. If if you were the UFC, you'd be thinking that you want to get, you know, the biggest possible shine on this guy as possible. Moises a good fighter, but not necessarily a draw, right? Not the name value just yet of some of the other fighters in the division. You'd think you'd want to give Makhachev like a Cerrone or someone of that notoriety to get some more casual attention on him, right?
Yeah, that's what you would think. But for whatever reason, I don't know if maybe it's a date thing. I don't know if it's maybe, an event thing, but Islam Makhachev just struggles to get guys in that upper echelon range right now. I think his highest ranked opponent was Drew Dober at the time. And that fight went about as well as it could have for Makhachev. But other than that, yeah, I don't remember him fighting anybody who's really top tier.
No, not to my knowledge either. At least rankings wise. Anyways, moving on. Askar Askarov signed versus Alejandro Perez. Alejandro Perez?
I call him Alex for short.
Okay. I just didn't want to err there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at this fight. It's entertaining enough. It just makes me wonder if not Askarov, then who's getting the title shot at 125 next?
You think they're going to probably just do a trilogy fight?
They could. This is booked July 21st. Honestly, if Moreno, they choose to do the press circuit and the Viva Mexico tour, which they might choose to do. Hold on, I got to knock on my door.
Come and knock on my door.
And we're back. Sorry for that technical delay. Anyways, yeah. Because now that I looked at this matchup, because it is July 31st, and probably they're not looking for, maybe they're going to do the whole Viva Mexico tour, and the winner of this fight's going to get, our boy Brandon Moreno. Perhaps that seems like a possibility because the flyweight title's not going to be contended with for a little bit, especially with the quick turnaround that Moreno's had.
Yeah, no, I agree. Maybe this is just one of those like hype up fights for whoever wins, just to be like, oh, this guy is legit. He's a killer. Like, could you imagine if Alex Perez wins? Then they have kind of a Mexican descent someone who's Mexican versus someone of Mexican descent fighting each other. So
it'll be like every boxing weight class under a certain weight ever. Anyways, slow weekend news. This might be the last one. Kevin Lee out of his fight with Sean Brady. I didn't even know that they were fighting, but Kevin Lee out with an injury, and he's permanently moving up to 170. Kevin Lee says.
We announced it, actually.
I probably wasn't on that episode.
Sad for Kevin Lee. Is he still training out of TriStar?
I'm not sure. I know that because of Montreal's COVID restrictions for a while, a lot of fighters that were normally out of TriStar weren't for a while. Like, I know that Roy McDonald moved down to Sanford MMA for a bit. Mm-hmm. By the way, I rewatched that T-Bow fight. I don't know how anybody in their right mind could score that for T-Bow. But because I remember David said, I had T-Bow winning the first and third round. Now I'm starting to think we might have to check David for an aneurysm. But anyways.
He was also one of those judges who scored it.
Oh yeah, I'm beginning to think that David may have been there. And if he was, that makes perfect sense. Anything else you want to get into, Mike?
No, I got nothing. I got nothing. I was watching basketball all day, so like,
so wasting your time basically.
Yes, I was.
Basketball, not really a fun sport, not really a sport.
What do you have against basketball? Did some basketball player cuck you once, or like what's going on?
I'm not Floyd Mayweather.
That story is so crazy.
Is it real though?
Allegedly. No one knows.
Allegedly. Okay.
No one knows.
Okay. So with that out of the way, I believe we're straight into precaps, are we not, Mike?
Yep.
Well,
Transition.
Ding, ding.
my God, transitions really are the lifeblood of the show. Honestly, I'm like a plant, except from getting my carbohydrates from the sun. I get my carbohydrates through transitions. Transitions are what give me energy. They power me to keep going, Mike. And that transition was a supple one. Let's get into this main event. Now, before we get into the technical specifics of this main event, Mike, I just wanted to ask you, is there any reason why we're not talking about Alexander Volkov as a potential heavyweight champion?
Because Francis Ngannou, Stipe Miocic, and Derek Lewis arguably could all beat him, and one of them already did.
They could. It's just, as far as the Derek Lewis fight, that was, I mean, you could say this is every Derek Lewis performance. It was a technical masterclass put on by his opponents, and then one small poor choice by Volkov, resulted in his defeat. And as far as Francis and, an aging Stipe, an excellent fighter, but we don't know how much punishment he can sustain at this late end of his career. This might be the final chapters of his career. And Francis, as good as a performance as he put on in that last Stipe fight, there's a lot of questions, I think, that we still need to be answered about Francis.
Yeah, like, for example, like, how does he handle that front kick of Volkov? Does he have the technical acumen to deal? Like, because Volkov is one of the few heavyweight guys. Actually, he might be one of the few, because Cyril got in that picture. One of the few heavyweight guys who's a puzzle. You know what I'm saying? He's hard to figure out.
In a lot of ways, he is a puzzle. And, susceptibility to wrestling and the Curtis Blades fight aside, we saw some interesting looks out of Volkov in his last fight against Overeem. Overeem, who was on a bit of a career resurgence. He was patient. He was disciplined in his performance. He didn't rush things. And he was meticulous about what shots he picked from what angles. Like, one of the things that I noticed, he had was not really risking throwing too much out at range, right? He'd just feint Overeem to the cage when and he would often take the inside angle as opposed to the outside angle, because Overeem opting to fight it's something I noticed about that fight, opting to fight large portions from southpaw. Volkov would switch stances when Overeem went to orthodox. So maybe Volkov feeling very comfortable at this stage, fighting an open stance matchup. And out at range, a lot of work done in the second round with his jab, stepping deep into that open side and, hurting Overeem in. And then, inside low kicks to slow down the movement of Overeem, feinting him to the cage. And when he got there, that right straight up the center could not miss.
Yeah, I agree. It was an interesting fight to see, because Overeem, I know he got cut after this fight, but Overeem was doing relatively well for himself up until that point. And to see Volkov just essentially shut him down is impressive. I just, to allude to the point, is for whatever reason, Volkov just is a cut below at least perception-wise, is a cut below that top four of Stipe, Ngannou, Lewis, and in my opinion, Gane is now ascended into that top four range. And that's why I think he needs this fight.
Keyword perception-wise, right? Because frankly, we don't know, right? Frankly, the only one we've seen him against is Derek Lewis, and we've seen Derek Lewis best opposition that, we would like to say is technically better than him. And Derek Lewis isn't exactly, in a lot of ways, a good litmus test for a lot of the division.
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
He's a weird guy. He's a weird guy.
Technically, not like his personality. I'm sure he's a wonderful human being.
Well, he is a weird guy personality-wise, but that's kind of his charm, right?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Now, where I can see a lot of problems presented for him in this fight. Number one, I could see this fight turning into not a boring fight, but a very, very patient, disciplined fight from both of these two. Like Gane fought in his last fight against Rosenstruik. I thought he looked excellent, right? Not a performance for the casuals, right? But a fun fight. And he showed that, look, I'm willing to sit on the outside of your range, kick your leg, teep your stomach, and jab from of both stances to a variety of different targets and eat up the clock. Just eat away at you. He did a good job of disincentivizing the forward pressure of Rosenstruik. Whenever Rosenstruik would blitz, he'd be changing levels and pushing him to the cage. And my God, he hit a foot sweep in the third round, I think, where, nice. Remember, he threw a knee to the leg. Rosenstruik elevated his leg, and then he just used an overhook on his right side, I believe, and just kicked out the legs of a 260-pound man like he's throwing around a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. And credit to Rosenstruik for getting back up after that, because that was oof. It was a hard throw.
And out of the rear naked choke as well. That preceded it. Gane for me is one of the most interesting prospects in the heavyweight division because, you know, if you watch the show before, you know this is basically the Cyril Gane appreciation hour. But every time I watch this man fight, I gain a new appreciation for a new aspect of his style. And one thing that I loved in that Rosenstruik fight is that he's just constantly feinting at all times. His feinting level changes, hip feinting, right? Just little jitters forward with the hands. And another thing is that his tall forward stance is almost an illusion. He gives his opponents the illusion that he's closer than he is, which is why one of the reasons why I think a striker that was as direct and powerful but very honest like Rosenstruik had a difficult time getting to him because that positioning of his lead leg is almost an illusion. You swing at that leg and it's gone, and then he's back in on you the next second, right? The illusion of range, it's a very, very good tool that he can use, and it's something that you don't see a lot of heavyweights using. Even a heavyweight that we would consider a faster heavyweight like Volkov, he's kind of plodding with his footwork, but strikes quickly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like in his last, but Gane is just fast in all senses of the word. Fast hands, fast kicks, able to move in and out of range quickly. He's just a fast, athletic man that doesn't seem to move like most heavyweights.
Yeah, and you know, I just want to build off of that. I think the thing that jumps out to me about Cyril Gane is full package. You know, and I've said
full
this
package
multiple times. Full package. You know, he wherever the fight is, he'll. Wow, CT. He'll you want to make it a brawl? He's got power. He's shown it in his early career at TKO. He's got power. If you want to make it a technical kickboxing match, well, he beat a guy with 60-something kickboxing matches in essentially a glorified kickboxing match, right? If you want a grappling match, well, he's one of the few guys with a heel hook finish in UFC heavyweight history.
Yeah,
right.
Probably one of the few guys with a heel hook finish in UFC history, right?
Yeah, period. Like, period. So
exactly. Yeah, a diverse skill set. You're right. Dangerous everywhere, and he might not be the power puncher of like a Rosenstruik or a Gane, but a Rosenstruik or a Ngannou, but he can hurt you, and responsible everywhere defensively as well. Whereas there's certain vulnerabilities you see to Volkov's game, you know, being as large and heavy as he is. Overeem hit him with showed that he can be hit with overhands. He can be hit with strikes as he's turning. Overeem did a good job in the first round. I think he landed a single uppercut, just or kind of more like a rising jab with the lead hand. Gane, meanwhile, out of clinches, he's pulling his head back, shifting his head side to side constantly at all times. He's calm under fire. Yeah, the full package, really.
I think for him though, I think patience might actually be a detriment. I think you gotta really rush Volkov. Volkov really likes, you know, middle of the center of the cage, gets the pick at you. You know.
In this fight, I would actually disagree with you because I think that, um, given the speed advantage, I think Volkov has the power advantage for sure. I think given the speed advantage of Gane, he can afford to pick at Volkov from the outside. I think Volkov in the earlier rounds is going to be struggling to um, keep up with Gane. He's going to be constantly turning, right? He fights out of that tall stance, and I don't know how good he is at cutting people off. He did a good job of it against Overeem, but when do you not see Overeem's back hit the cage eventually, right? When you pressure him. I think if Gane turns him and hits him in motion, it could be big advantage Gane. I think that lead leg is going to be a big target for both of these men. But for the way they go about it, it's going to be very different. Gane's going to have to pick at that lead leg, right? And bouncing in and out of range as he jabs up and down the body of Volkov. But for Volkov, because that lead leg is almost bait of Gane, and because his head movement is so good, even a man, swinging as fast as Rosenstruik was, could barely hit him.
Yeah.
Feint high, go low. Pressure Gane as close as you can to the cage. Get him to pull that back. And in the early rounds, don't even expect that you're going to hit the head. Aim for the legs. Try and get him more stationary for the later rounds. But if you swing at that leg early, it's going to be a long night. If you're too honest with your attacks, you swing at that leg early, Gane's going to be pulling that leg back and coming back into range and either pitter-pattering you or, opening up with combinations when he feels a little more comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think I see where your head's at. I like it. In terms of the keys for this one. I just think that, the one thing that stuck out to me in that Derek Lewis fight is that when Volkov is rushed, he tends to goof it. I don't know if that's maybe because Derek Lewis is just so fast and the last couple seconds and anything can happen. But I do think there is something to be said for, rush Volkov, not necessarily pressure, but rush him, make him make quick decisions.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I agree that it has been a stylistic vulnerability of his in the past. But then we get into the debate of is it more valuable to fight to your advantages or to your opponent's weaknesses, right?
Yeah. No, I hear that.
And I think that if we're looking at probability, because I do agree rushing Volkov, especially with his height and his plotting footwork, might be a good idea. Look at Gane's performance against Junior Dos Santos, right? Junior Dos Santos, whose technical weaknesses are pronounced and they're quite evident, to be honest with you. If you let him sit at range and jab your body, he's going to be able to set up that overhand over time, right? But if you pressure him to the cage, his footwork is not the best. Now, Gane looked like he was trying to draw out the weapons of Dos Santos and counter him, as opposed to really apply pressure in kind of in that sort of way. So yeah, I found that interesting. He's more of a man, I guess, to fight to his advantages than his opponent's weaknesses. So yeah, we'll see, because there's value in both. I don't know. What would you do if you were Gane, Mike?
I just think that if you can use your speed, why not just and I think Gane might. Here's another thing we haven't said. Gane has probably the second best gas tank in the division, behind Stipe. So why not use that gas tank and rush him a little bit, feint a little more, feint more, jab more, kick the inside. Kick the lead leg more on the inside. Just make Volkov make decisions, right?
Sure. And I think for a lot of his career, he has done that. I think our minds are colored definitely by that performance against Rosenstruik, who, dangerous guy. Guy. I don't blame Gane for being a little more disciplined, I guess, and a little more methodical but yeah, opening up might be a better idea in this fight, especially as you get Volkov to miss. And I think one tool that's going to be there for him is the overhand. I would advise Gane to get to kicking early as well. Kick the body, kick the legs. And man, that overhand just seems to be a strike that Volkov, because of his height, is vulnerable to. He was able to slip it a few times against Overeem, but occasionally, just with zero setup, it was able to land and get through as well. yeah, bringing the hands low with kicks and then investing in that overhand in the later rounds, right? Or generally attacking the body, I would say. And Cyril Gane, when he sits down on it, he's got a hell of an overhand.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, clearly this is I think we're both kind of saying what we're saying here is that we think Gane's going to pull it out.
Most likely. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's paths to victory for Volkov, but just given the well-roundedness and the diversity of his skill set, and frankly the speed and athleticism advantage, I tend to lean towards Gane in this one.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, like Volkov can absolutely win but I just think where Volkov will win is if, Cyril Gane plays the patient, like pick at him game. Well, Volkov has the reach advantage, the size advantage, and the power advantage to kind of freeze you a little bit. So
yeah,
why not, dance around him a little bit,
And if you're Volkov, be patient, but don't wait, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Make your opportunities. Like I said, feint him to the cage. And if you get him anywhere near the cage, kick those legs. I do think that with Volkov, he can kick with a little more impunity, given that Gane, really known as a power puncher. I think Volkov can take his chances and, take one to land one in the earlier rounds if you can really, really, really invest in those legs. Don't throw yourself out of position, but don't miss out on opportunities to kick.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Okay, awesome. So that was our main event. Now we have a heavyweight co-main event. Feels like Tanner Boser just fought.
Yeah, didn't he fight Ilir Latifi like a couple weeks back?
He did in a performance that, quite frankly, yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna June 5th. June 5th.
So yeah, that was like 20 days ago.
Yeah.
And to this day, right?
To this day, yeah. So I'm not gonna be. I thought coming out of that I probably gave the fight to Boser, but at the same time, I said I'm not disappointed if he loses, and I thought that Boser after this fight should take some time and, Latifi not exactly a common mold of fighter you're going to find at heavyweight, but some clear, vulnerabilities that needed to be worked on in Boser's game as far as just getting up from the bottom, right? St. Preux, though, if you can pick a decent matchup for Boser to win at heavyweight, I would probably pick St. Preux. He's not going to throw in combinations. His chin's going to be up in the air. Southpaw is St. Preux. Yeah, I don't know. I Mike, what do you think?
I mean, let's look at what Tanner Boser is good at, right? Footwork, movement, fast hands, right?
Yep.
What does he struggle with typically? Power punchers, large men, larger men, which is why a lot of people were thinking 205 man, and he was like, nope, right? But, he does tend to struggle against a taller, longer, larger fighter. Well, Ovince St. Preux, he is bigger, obviously, in this weight class, but Ovince St. Preux is, a guy who's around the same size and weight of Tanner Boser. So I think this is really realistically a good matchup for Boser to utilize his strengths here. Footwork, movement, use those hands. Honestly, I can see, not to the same level of finesse, but I can definitely see a, what do you call it? Dominic Reyes versus Ovince St. Preux match, where Dominic Reyes just kept his feet moving, slipped a punch, landed that straight left, and walked out, except replaced straight left with overhand right. And I think you're going to get kind of a similar result.
Yeah, overhand right, I would agree, especially with the height that Ovince St. Preux carries his chin. Yeah. If St. Preux can maximize a wrestling advantage, we'll see. We know he's fairly good from the top, but largely when I think of St. Preux, I think of, a very hard kicker and a man that can apply some crafty submissions, but I tend to think this is Boser's fight to lose.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And then, yeah, that one fairly straightforward, I think. Going down the card, we have two men with limited amounts of fights in the UFC, but Raoni Barcelos, who I'm drawing a blank on versus Timur Valiev.
Actually, I like this kid. Well, he's not a kid, but Romy Barcelos. I think he's on a fight win streak. To be honest with you.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let me
What do you
just
know about his style?
So this is the interesting thing about him is that like when you see him fight, you're thinking Muay Thai, right? Like he's got a very kind of traditional Brazilian Muay Thai style where it's like the hands are like this, but they're very like kind of ploddy. Whereas typically your Muay Thai style is like, I guess for the uninitiated, is either the hands are like here or you're coming forward like this, and you got the front leg very light and the back leg heavy. Which neither here nor there. But the point is that like he does tend to fight really well. He's explosive. Doesn't really have the best head movement. As a result, he does tend to get touched up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy thing about him, and I just want to make sure I was right about this, is a very good accomplished wrestler and a very crafty grappler. But he just, for whatever reason, doesn't show it off that much in the UFC. He did have one submission win against Chris Gutierrez, but other than that, it's been, stand-up wars for this guy. So, yeah, that's the interesting about him. But you know what? It works for him because he's got he gives me, for whatever reason, he gives me Edson Barbosa vibes, but slower.
Edson Slobosa then.
Yeah, Edson Slobosa.
And Valiev, from what I've seen, is all about punching into takedown attempts, very much in the mold of fast hands and flashy takedowns, in the mold of like a Merab Dvalishvili. Good, very good boxer. I remember his UFC debut where he was absolutely styling on Trevin Jones before he, happened to get knocked out. Jones just, I think he caught a kick and just was able to put Valiev away, but then came back against Martin Day, and here we are. Interesting fight to have as your
for Valiev, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Fili versus Pineda. That'll be good fun. Pineda on his second UFC run after he came in and that was in 2020. Yeah, and KO'd Herbert Burns on short notice. That was he was away since 2014, came back and KO'd Herbert Burns. Yeah, that's right. Largely in ground exchanges as well. And then had that very, very entertaining fight against Cub Swanson where Cub just kind of gritted through some of those exchanges and leaned on his experience to beat Pineda.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Pineda's interesting because he was, he took some soul searching, did his thing in PFL, came back, and is, he had a good showing against Herbert Burns and showing against Cub Swanson, like.
Oh, yeah. In the early rounds, he had Cub Swanson hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know what Daniel Pineda is, nor do I have to, but I do think this fight against Touchy Fili is going to be very, very interesting to see where both guys are at.
Yeah, Andre Fili streaking right now, kind of flying under the radar, but since he lost to Michael Johnson, he beat Dennis Bermudez, knocks out Shaman Moraes, Miles Jury beat him on the way out. Had that close decision loss to Bryce Mitchell, but then beat Charles Jourdain. Lost to okay, so he's on a 2-fight win streak right now. Yeah, interesting fight. I always like to see Touchy Fili.
Fun fight.
Fun fight.
I do think Pineda should win on the ground, though.
Potentially, yeah. Pineda quite good on the mat if he can get it there. Tim Means versus Nicholas Dalby, another very fun fight. Look for a lot of elbows and a lot of blood in that fight. Moicano Jai Herbert.
This one's interesting to me because it wasn't too long ago I thought Moicano could really be a problem for Max Holloway.
Yeah, absolutely. After shutting down Calvin Kattar, kicking that lead leg. Fun fight. Jai Herbert, interesting prospect out of England. Unfortunately, was, had that very tough fight against Masur Nduba. Yeah, and then we've got our undercard with a few good fights in as well. Return of Kennedy and Chukwi. If David were here, he'd be begging us to talk about it. But Warley Alves, fresh off of KOing someone who I thought was going to be a very big prospect in the UFC coming out of the Middle East in Munir Lazzez. Yeah, fun fights on the card. I'll be excited for this one, despite its lack of relative name value. Justin James is back. Awesome. That's going to do us for this card, I think. And unless there's anything you want to discuss, Mike.
Yeah, not a bad card in terms of quality. I will say, just a note, like, I see what the UFC is trying to do. They're trying to be the Saturday night show, right? The NBA has Wednesday, NFL has Sunday, right? The UFC wants to be Saturday, right? They want to make Saturdays for the UFC, and I see it. But in order for it to work, you need the cards to be quality, and you need to market the guys right. And I don't think they've done 100% on that, to be honest. But
yeah,
with cards like this, and as the pandemic starts to kind of wane a little bit, and as things get back to normal, I think they can.
I'm with you. Like the leg kick owns Thursdays, and Mondays. The UFC is looking to own Saturday, and I think the UFC marketing machine has fallen flat in a couple of ways, and that, we've talked about this before. The UFC markets itself as the brand and not so much its talent. But yeah. We have some breaking news just coming in on the leg kick.
Music. There's all right, go.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Anyways, relax, puppies. I got my puppies going. They're even very angry about this news. But there's going to be a new lawsuit filed against the UFC. Though I feel like the last couple lawsuits never reached anything conclusion, and I think some money was probably thrown at the those filing the lawsuit. But I have it here that CB Dollaway and Cajun Johnson, ex-UFC fighters, Cajun Johnson, Canadian, off of that season of The Ultimate Fighter, Canada versus Australia, they're filing a lawsuit against Endeavor in the UFC right now.
Class action?
Let's see.
Interesting.
Similar to the... okay, so it's still ongoing. The one led by Kung Lee, Nate Quarry, John Fitch, and Kyle Kingsbury. Violating antitrust laws.
So are they added to it, or is it a separate class action?
It seems like it's a separate lawsuit entirely that they're filing against them. And yeah, antitrust laws. And honestly, they've got a pretty decent... I would think that they have a pretty decent case. The thing that I'm worried about these lawsuits is that the UFC has the money and the top quality lawyers to just stall these people in court, whether they are monopoly or not.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the thing. I will say, look, technically speaking, the UFC is not the only sports league that's a monopoly, but you want to know the difference between those leagues and the UFC?
Collective bargaining.
Yeah. So
I think fighters just want their interests represented, whether it's in a, more of a capitalist sense, more of a free market sense where they're allowed to shop their talents around from promotion to promotion, or they want the ability to collectively bargain. Yeah, it says here, the lawsuit from MMAfighting.com, the lawsuit filed by Johnson and Dollaway alleges that Zuffa violated antitrust laws, paying UFC fighters far less than they were entitled to receive, no shit, and eliminating or hurting other MMA promoters, no shit. Representatives of the lawsuit in a statement said the class period, ultimately proposed by the plaintiffs in leading the action in 2017, blah, 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 Dollaway bring the case on behalf of themselves, who fought in the promotion. Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. They're seeking damages against the UFC. Yeah, this is interesting. I'd like to follow this and see where it goes. I wonder if they'll join with the lawsuit followed by Franklin and Lee. I wonder why they're choosing to do this separately. Much like the previous, they're alleging locking fighters into long-term exclusive contracts. The fighters say prevents them from competing everywhere. Yes. using its market dominance to coerce fighters into re-signing contracts, allegedly making the contracts effectively perpetual and preventing the fighters from reaching free agency. And third, acquiring and then closing down other MMA promotions that threaten the UFC dominance. Well, I mean, that doesn't sound too controversial to me.
It depends where this lawsuit is, who is presiding, and who the senator is at the time. Or not even the senator, but the legislator or governor at the time.
Yeah, and go on, Mike.
No, I'm just saying, like, I hate to say it like that, but, the UFC is clearly allied themselves in the political line for a reason. And I find it very interesting that the second there was some heat under Donald Trump was the second these lawsuits start to gain some traction. Not saying that's a bad or good thing. I'm just saying, it's there, right? What I will also say to this effect is I don't know how much two separate lawsuits help you as opposed to just going one joint lawsuit. Like maybe there's a method to the madness of
maybe because one's filed against Zuffa and one's filed against Endeavor. I'm not entirely sure. But we're not lawyers. We're gonna have to look into this more deeply. But this is interesting news. How much funding they have to back the lawsuit if the UFC is going to choose to just stall them in court. Because to be honest with you, I don't think the UFC cares about the publicity, and I don't think the fans. It hurts them the longer the lawsuit goes on. I think inevitably that just hurts the people filing it, which is awful and one of the flaws in our criminal justice system. But we will see. We will see. I would like to see more fighters come out in support of it. But something about monopolies. They've got a lot of fucking power. So, yeah, we will see what ends up happening with this. We'll be covering it as we're going forward. Mike, any other thoughts on that or anything else you'd like to cover?
No, I just collective bargaining is not communism, guys. Please. And I say this I say this as a person who cares. That's it. Please agree to have some sort of association, collectively bargain your contracts, and get what's yours. And an 80-20 split is not feasible, right? And how do
by the way, it's less than 80-20.
Yeah, it's like 75-50, 85-15 if you technically think about it. But yeah, my point is that how do you grow the grassroots of the sport? How do you convince parents to get their kids to come into the UFC, right? Or when they grow up, because we don't want kids fighting, but when they grow up to go into the UFC, if the sport is not offering much money for those kids.
Paychecks attract talent, right?
Yeah.
Talent attracts eyes. Eyes means more money, and it just becomes a positive feedback cycle. You want to compete with the big sports leagues, this is what you got to do. I feel like we've talked about it ad nauseum, but guys, if this is communism, and communism means more money, well, then why wouldn't you want it?
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I think there's a lot of people who are uneducated about what a good collective bargaining system can do. Sure. The NBA is far from a communist system, and they have probably one of, if not the best collective bargaining systems in the world. Please, guys, do it. It's not.
Do it. Listen to us. Please. Listen to us. All
right.
Anyways, people, we have been the Leg Kick Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, subscribe, comment, tell your friends about the podcast.
Wait, time out. There's no bad take of the week?
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week.
All right.
We have to call this one quickly. But like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about the podcast. And we, as sure as Mike will have plastic wrap on his chair, we will be back to record another episode on Monday. And we will see you then. Mike, to play us out, what does that mean?
Fuck it, we'll do it live, and I actually have a pen this time.
You actually have a pen? Throw it. That's it. Huh? That's it. Fuck that pen.
In this crazy mixed up world where Christian Yoboa, a fellow MMA fighter, is in the back there.
Christian Yoboa is in the background, actually. Christian, say hi to the people of the Leg Kick. Christian's agreed to be my manservant for the day.
What? Whoa. That's racist.
There's nothing racist about it. It's just an agreement between two consenting homosexual men. Anyways, Mike, play us out. What does that mean?
What? just remember, you got 3 things. You got life, you got family, and this podcast.
4 things. Plastic wrap on Mike's chair. Peace. All right, man. I gotta run.